Hello everyone, my name is Seth Hodges and I'm doing a video for my American Revolution class. Today I will be talking about Faith in the Founders of the American Republic by Mark David Hall and Danielle Dreisbach. I will be talking about Chapter 10, John Hancock, Congregationalist, Revolutionary. When one thinks of the Founding Fathers, they normally think of George Washington, John Adams, or Thomas Jefferson. One underrated founding father who was a renowned Christian but a Congregationalist was John Hancock. He's more famous for writing his initials large on the Declaration of Independence. Hancock declared there King George will be able to read that without his spectacles. He became a traitor in the eyes of the British, and he didn't care. He already had been tried for smuggling and was not found guilty. It was nothing new to Hancock. John Hancock served as president of the Continental Congress from 1775 to 1777. Another imperative aspect of John Hancock was that he initially funded the American Revolution. He also played a crucial part in being a part of the convention that would ratify the Constitution. He was also periodically involved with politics in Boston. It was also a Boston selectman and the president of the Massachusetts Provincial Congress from 1774 to 1775. He even was a key member of the Committee of Safety and served as delegate to the Continental Congress. During the course of the 1770s, Hancock was also the wealthiest merchant in the colonies. He was heavily influential, and despite being an underrated founding father, John Hancock, according to Hall and Dreisbach, was a perfect example of how Congregationalists approached the war for independence. John Hancock paid no expense when it came to supporting the revolutionary cause. He literally paid a large price for the American Revolution. A lot of his wealth was at risk during the Revolution. He knew the cost for supporting the Revolution. He did not care. He knew that he would risk his life trying to fund the success of the Revolution. After America had claimed its liberty, Hancock's investment in the revolutionary cause paid off. He was able to win over many people and increased in political strength. According to Harlow Giles Unger, he says that after the revolution was over, Boston was in ruins, and John Hancock spent most of his fortune financing the revolution, rebuilding Boston, and establishing state institutions and charities, never, of course, neglecting the costly luxuries that were an integral part of his own and his wife's comforts and pleasures. Hancock cared a lot about not only his country, but also his city. No wonder he had won politically and why he was so influential. Everyone loved him in the community. It is hard to determine if he was a Christian or a deist. Many of the founding fathers were deistic and Christian. Hancock frequently used biblical arguments to justify America's revolt against England and providentialist language to describe its battle to obtain independence, as did other Calvinist founders. Hancock also emphasized God's sovereignty, human depravity, basing government on the consent of the people, and separating and limiting governmental powers. He shared Reformed convictions that magistrates should promote the public good in the Christian faith. They should create a society grounded on biblical norms that fostered Orthodox Christianity. In addition, while serving as Massachusetts governor, he repeatedly thanked God for blessing its residents, exhorted them to repent of their sins, and strove to base his policies on his understanding of the biblical norms of justice and fairness. Hancock descended from a family of Congregationalist ministers. John's grandfather was a bishop, and his father served the church. Many expected him to follow in his father and grandfather's footsteps. Hancock was like his father in terms of being faithful, honest, giving, and being filled with compassion. It is safe to say that he was most likely Christian due to his ongoing faith in church-going and his generous heart. And after the death of his father, Hancock went on to work with his uncle as being a clerk. After his uncle died, he took over his uncle's business. He inherited his uncle's wealth and engaged several enterprises that included importing, exporting, warehousing, wholesaling, shipbuilding, operating ships and wharves, managing real estate, and investment banking. Hancock was part of the Brattle Street members. Hancock did have Hancock's Christian commitment and is evident in this frequent church attendance, practice of prayer, regular reading of the Bible, forgiveness of individuals who wronged him, and belief in an afterlife. Hancock asserted that God created people to worship him individually and corporately, and that giving praise and thanks to the Lord were essential aspects of worship. The merchant rejoiced. God has blessed us with his glorious light of the gospel, which provided peace and joy. The merchant promised his wife and numerous friends and fellow patriots in letters that he was praying for them. Immediately after being inaugurated as governor of Massachusetts, Hancock and his associates and friends held a service of worship at Battle Street Church to thank God for his goodness and invoke his guidance and assistance in their work. He also read the Bible frequently and to his family, such as his kids mainly. His Congregationalist views combined with his support for the revolution defined him as a Congregationalist revolutionary. He was a large proponent for the patriotic cause of preserving life and property. He was against the British Crown from the start. After several religious arguments from Hancock as to why the colonies should resist Britain, the Boston Massacre was plenty of reason for Hancock and the rest of the religious colonists to secede from the British Empire. He said, the inhuman, unprovoked murders of the 5th of March, 1770 had no parallel in history. While he blamed British soldiers for planning and executing this horrific act, he attributed ultimate responsibility to the devil. For a dreadful moment, God permitted Satan to take the reins and to sacrilegiously pollute our land with the dead bodies of New England's guiltless sons. Not only did these troops violate our civil rights, Hancock protested, they tried to prevent colonists from enjoying their religious privileges and to pervert their morals. Hancock continued to pray for the colonists who went to war along with his friends and family. He continued to spend every penny he had on the war efforts, including ammunition and other supplies, to fund the Patriots in their endeavor to defeat England. On June 4th, he wrote to the Honorable Assembly of Massachusetts Bay, "Our affairs are hastening fast to a crisis, and the approaching campaign will, in all probability, determine forever the fate of America." After the war, he was a well-known figure in America. He was a famous philanthropist and known as a giving man and not a selfish rich man. He gave most of his money to the cause because he knew what Britain was doing was not morally correct and wanted to protect his community, his loved ones, and his property. He knew that he would get nothing in return after the war had met its conclusion. He was a giver and was beloved by all his peers. He achieved great success in helping investing towards a united country and become one of its founding fathers. After John Hancock died, thousands showed up to his funeral. John Adams, who disliked John Hancock, said, "I can melt into tears when I hear his name. If benevolence, charity, generosity were ever personified in North America, they were in John Hancock." Everyone praised him for his political, military, economic sacrifices and his charitable heart. He gave everything to make sure that America would succeed in the American Revolution. His contributions include establishing 13 colonies into a nation that were immaculate and would go down as one of the greatest merchant, philanthropists, Congregationalists, and founding fathers in American history. Thank you for watching, everyone.